And we are live with Big E, Troll Fam. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Just drying off after a day in the pouring rain.
Jesus.
Because if people have rainouts, that means that their crane's free to work on.
Oh, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are you
Yeah.
so upset about?
Yeah, just absolutely loved it. This is like my third hoodie of the day.
People always ask me, like, why do you have so many fucking t-shirts in your car? It's like, because in the summer I sweat through them,
Yeah.
and every other weather, you're just soaked when you're outside.
I just cleaned out my truck from winter. Like I always keep a pair of winter bibs and winter jacket just in case there's an anomaly. But in winter, I keep like multiples of everything. I bet you I have like four pairs of bibs, probably half a dozen hoodies, coveys, all that stuff just rolling dirty in there just because it's like, I don't know when I'm going to need it.
My cousin has that. He's got a pack out, and
Yep.
he's put, underwear, socks, whatever. Like he does agricultural fencing.
Yep.
So it's the same shit, right? Like it's like he is out.
Yeah. You have one of those like North Face dry bags that's got a full change of clothes in it that just stays in the back in case somehow we get soaked all the way through all the clothes.
Yeah, I mean, on a day like that, you don't want to drive home wet.
No.
It's
Well, I don't really care about the water. It's like if I'm working with hydraulic or diesel because it will never come out of my seat covers.
right, 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 right.
But
Why don't you just tell people what you do? Is that cool for a minute?
yeah, yeah. Um, I fix broken machinery. I work for Manitowoc Crane, one of their subsidiaries. My specialty is cranes. My background is in heavy construction and mining equipment. And then I also have a welding background, so I can do that as well. But yeah, basically just fixing broken stuff. So whether it's like on-road trucks occasionally, truck cranes, crawler cranes. The only thing I don't do too much of is tower cranes. Just a different set of certs, different company. We don't really do much with them. Yeah, basically just a jack of all trades, master of none.
How
Fuck
are
around,
you with
find.
heights?
I'm good. I was up in a
Yeah.
Bronto today at 190 feet at half stick, and that was fine.
Jesus.
Yeah. Tomorrow we have a 242, so a 242-foot man lift that like A's out, and then you can go 100 feet away from the cab, which is kind of cool.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
Oh, what
yeah,
a day,
basically just
dude.
fix broken shit.
A fixer of problems. I,
Yeah. And the creator of some too. So
well, I mean, I always kind of said that where I'm like, all the problems that I created in my 20s,
yeah,
I'm
come back to
like,
you.
oh yeah,
Yeah. 100%.
they just
Tenfold.
they got a different, exactly, yeah, they got a different face on them, and then you're like, yeah, I got some good to do still, so let's get
It was
after it.
funny because like I didn't grow up being mechanically inclined. Like I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure like the first thing that my dad told my ex-wife when we were dating was, "Hey, if you have car problems, Erik is not the person. He does not know how to fix anything." Like I grew up, I could tear anything apart. My dad would come out to the garage and be like, "You've been quiet for an hour," and then the lawnmower is down to the block, and he's like, "Dick, what are you
Yeah,
doing?"
you.
Like I was the master at tearing bikes down to nothing, and then my dad not having the tools to put it back together the right way. So it was like, all right, so dad puts it back together and I tear it down. I'm like, this is a great relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a real relationship building, your
Yeah,
team.
yeah. Yep, dad finally put new windows in the garage, and then like I bet you it was less than 24 hours. I punted a soccer ball through two of them. Like it went out one window or it went through one window on the outside and broke the other one on the inside.
Oh,
He's like, let me get this straight. I put new windows in the garage and you broke both of them. Thank you for that. Yeah. But no, my old man was always like we grew up like middle class, like low middle class. And so it was always like, I'm gonna fix it myself. And he was great at it. Like he learned how to like plumbing, electrical, like he could figure it all out. And he was pretty mechanically inclined. Um, so I grew up with that kind of stuff in my life. Like it wasn't like, oh, we'll just hire somebody. Like,
right.
what is it? Incompetence is uh a perk of the rich.
Yes,
Like you can either know how to do it or make enough money that you can pay somebody how to do it.
that's how it goes. Or you go without.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, not enough people do that. Like I want a really nice motorcycle or something. And it's like, go get a not very nice motorcycle and
Yeah,
fucking fix it.
yeah,
It's like that's how my parents' generation, I feel like that's how they got everything they had. It was like, this
yeah,
is broken and I'll give it to you for nothing.
right.
And then you'd fucking fix it.
All right, you put some sweat into it, a little bit, couple bucks in parts here, but like you learned how it ran, and then you bought your house for $12, and then you sold it, and when the market went up for $4 million, and you're like, I don't know why y'all can't afford houses. It's like, well, you kind of priced this out, but thank you, Gerald.
Thank you, Gerald. I
Yeah,
also thank you, Gerald.
yeah.
Um, yeah, man, the housing market. Do you own?
No, I rent.
Yeah,
All right, I
same,
got a good
dude.
deal. Like my apartment is wildly cheap.
Same.
Um, and I was looking for houses, and where I live in the Twin Cities, the median home price is like 495 US. And I was like, well, I'm a single dude that's a mechanic,
Mhm.
so that's out. Yeah, and no like, old rich ladies have wanted a dirty mechanic around enough to be like a sugar mama, so we're just
Well,
back to living in the apartment.
I don't think you've flaunted it around enough for one.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'll just put on some, Nature Boy Ric Flair shades and just flaunt
Yes.
it at the boat club.
Yeah, get some hoochie daddy shorts on and
Oh,
fucking
dude. I don't think
you'll
I don't own a pair of shorts that even gets close to touching my knees,
same, dude.
dude. Like
Oh,
if
you
it's
mean
sunny out, like,
short?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, dude. I think like my media, like I think my most of my summer shorts that I wear like are mid thigh. Like think Magnum PI. Like that's the average. That's like my day-to-day short. It's
That's
not even
cool.
special. Like I'll just walk through town or Walmart with that shit. I don't care. And my
Good,
leopard print Crocs.
good for you, man.
Yeah, fuck them.
For everybody that's listening, he's also a shit brick house.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm
or
not a small fellow.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
slightly above average. But I was talking with one of our IT guys on the phone, and I'm like, "This isn't working. Like my phone buttons aren't working." And he was being kind of like nerd condescending to me, and I don't know shit about technology. I'm
Yeah,
amazed I got this Zoom call to work. And I went down to like our main home office, and he was there, and I was like, "Oh, where's so and so?" And they're like, "Oh, he's in his office." And I walked in, and like he stood up, and he like looked at me, and he's like, "You bigger than I thought you were, but I also imagined a person that talked like you, looking like you." I'm like, I'm taking that as a compliment because I need you to fix my laptop that I also just broke.
yeah. Do your job, bitch.
Yeah. We got these new tough books, like the Dell tough books.
Nice.
Well, the new ones are small. Like if I put my hand in my hand is as big as the screen.
Same.
And I'm
Yeah,
like, this is great. And he goes, well, they're touch screen. I'm like, how do they work with hydraulic oil? And they're like, well, you don't want to get anything on the screens. I'm like, why did you give me a touch screen computer?
yeah. You got to get one of those pens and then get hydraulic oil all over that.
So the pen has a dummy leash like to the computer so you don't lose it.
Nice.
That lasted one day. I lost the pen. He's like, it was safety leash to the computer. I'm like, listen, okay. I
Yeah.
fixed the cranes, you fix the electronics. But
Yeah, man. Everything on the crane is supported very well. Doesn't mean it doesn't come off. Don't give
yep,
me that shit.
yep. I will
I
say though that like going from like heavy agriculture, like the big scraper tractor specials and combines and heavy construction equipment, and while there's a lot of tech in that, it's nowhere near cranes. Like Blaine, one of the other troll guys, like this dude built a whole harness system to test connections and stuff like that because there's so much wiring and sensors and harnesses and computers in them that if like one, depending on what it is, one wire being shorted out will kill a $10 million crane dead in the water.
whoa.
Doesn't matter. Like, because there's so many safety protocols with rigging and lifting and all that kind of stuff. Also, everything on cranes is expensive. So, because they get to say, well, it's safer this way. But like, some of them have joysticks and a little trigger button on a joystick, plastic button, 2 inches long, two wires, $742. Yeah. Yeah.
And I would get it if it was like made of carbon fiber and like
Yeah.
was gonna
Nope.
last forever.
It's like the plastic that you have on like a plain old toolbox.
Wow.
Yep. Pretty neat. But
Shit's shit's pretty wild, man. It's
yeah.
yeah, anything that says like baby in front of it or safety in the
Yeah.
name of it, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of like Well, do you want to die? Do you want your kids to
Right.
die?
And
And you're
that's what
like,
they always be like,
no.
oh, you want to be unsafe? Meanwhile, you go over to like, some of these smaller roofing companies and like nobody speaks English.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we made this lifting thing. And I'm like, what do you mean you made it? And it's like galvanized steel, like to hang like a drop ceiling with shackles in it. And they're like, yeah, we lift these pallets of cinder blocks up. I'm like, that's a decision. I don't think it's a good one, but it's a decision.
I like that. That's a
Yeah. Like,
supportive thing to say to somebody.
yeah.
It's like that
That's like my go-to. Like,
is a decision for sure.
yeah, like that's a technique. I mean, not a good one or a preferred one, but it's a technique. That's also the same company I went out to, and they're like, "Hey, our crane won't lift." And then I come out and like it had forks on the end of it for picking up like material, and the forks are through this dude's second story roof. And guy goes, "Yeah, it wouldn't lift up." So I thought if I went down fast and then pulled back, it would give enough pressure. Well, he pushed down on it, and the safety cutout went out, and it
Yeah.
just full force into this dude's brand new house roof. So of course I get there and the homeowner's like, "Are you the crane guy?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm the technician." "Well, are you gonna pay for my roof?" "Ah, no, I'm not paying for anything. Like, I'm actually gonna charge this guy for being here."
You're like, I want you to be paid and I want your house to be paid, but
Yeah.
he has to pay my invoice first.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
don't care. Like, I want you to have a roof over your head, but not more than I want my bill to be paid.
that's right.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
the other day, how many hours did you drive out to that and the straps were still on?
7.
7 hours.
7.
So they drive him out there. It's an emergency. You had just got home, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I drove like across 2 states and this boom wouldn't come out of the rest. And they're trying all this shit and it's not working. And I go out there and they have the safety tie down cable still attached.
yeah.
If you're gonna be dumb, better be tough. Yeah, I'm
um
telling you, like half these calls are like you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Like, hey, your pump is worn out, it will fail. They're like, oh, we can push that off, and then they go to a pick, they blow their pump out, and this thing has a load, 100 feet in the air. You're like, that is unfortunate for
yeah.
everybody, not me, everybody else.
For everybody.
But
Well, because that's a safety concern now. How do you get it down? Like it's yeah, that's
well,
fun.
so depending, like I've had one where they had it and we couldn't get like they blew the whole pump out and there was no way. We tried to use an auxiliary hydraulic power unit to like try to get it to go, didn't have enough, whatever, wasn't meeting the sensors. So we got another crane next to it. So they had to pay another crane company to bring their crane in and set up. Then they'd pay a company to bring a big man basket in because they had to re-rig it in the air and pick up on it, get the other rigging off and swing it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, eh? It's holding something.
Yeah.
One of our earliest conversations was about people calling you and asking you questions, which is fine.
Mhm.
But when it's like you didn't do the work and you didn't read the manuals and you didn't do that kind of stuff, where it's actually a bad deal
Yeah.
answering people's questions like that. There's
Yeah.
no there's no accountability, and I'd love to talk about that for a bit. That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm remembering the conversation. I think the big thing, like, I don't have a problem answering questions for people. And I don't think any mechanic really does, or whatever trade you're in.
Anybody.
I'm speaking for mine. But when somebody calls you like, hey, I got this problem, in my head, I'm expecting a follow-up of, hey, I have this problem. I've done X, Y, and Z. I looked at this, this, and this. And now I get a lot of calls from people that are like, hey, I have this problem. I'm like, all right, and what did you do? I called you. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. So like you didn't really do like if it's a customer, I don't expect them to do a bunch of due diligence. I'm
Yeah.
billing you the same. But like a coworker or another company or whatever it is, like if you're not going to make the effort to do the due diligence for your project that you're billing on or making money on, why would I do that for free? Like you're not doing your part. Why would I be part of this as well?
Yeah.
Um, and I think it kind of gets, and I've talked on like with Colton McCormick over at Certified Wrench. We were talking about the same thing on like guys will just call out of the blue or they'll like message you and they're like, hey, I have this problem, but like won't give any background. Like, hey man, you're the mechanic. So I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions that you should have already asked yourself and checked.
Hmm.
The same thing with like the strap thing, right? I said, hey, did you do, before I even went out, I asked them a series of questions. I mean, I didn't think I had to say, hey, did you take off the safety tie down strap of your crane?
Yeah, you're like,
That
are you
was the
wearing
biggest,
pants? Let's
right.
start
Like,
right at the beginning
are you
of
in the crane?
that's right.
Um, like, but there's not a lot of, and when you get to companies, the guys will hold themselves accountable, but there's not a lot of accountability across the board when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, hey, this dude calls me when he has basic problems and he hasn't done any of like the diagnostic tree, so to speak. Like he's just like, hey, this thing won't move. Okay, what did you try? Well, like I tried moving it and it didn't move.
Yeah, I asked
Okay.
it nice.
Yeah. So if you could do some more research and then if you get stumped, give me a call. Like I have my own shit. I have my own no moving things that I'm gonna go do the work on.
Yeah.
And like I get like everybody, I want to help anybody. Like if you're out there doing stuff, whatever, but like I don't want to do the job for you.
Yeah.
I'll send you a bill. I'll do the job for you and send you a bill for it.
Yeah.
But like there's like professional courtesy and then there's also kind of like the hey man, like you've called me 7 times with 7 problems and you haven't really done anything for any of them. Like maybe I should just take the customer.
Well, and I mean, but you're the guy doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So when I started drywall finishing again, I went full time, and actually before I even did that, when I was like troubleshooting with the new tools and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
if I was gonna ask somebody to take time out of their day to try and explain to me like what I'm missing, I was putting in pretty serious hours on the tools first.
Right.
Like, is it this? Is it that? Is it pressure? Is it,
Right.
are the blades fucked up? Like, and you go through all those things, and then I even feel bad taking that kind of time from people. Like, I just can't get it. Can you just fix it for me? And because some of it's time. Like,
Right.
if
And
you,
that's like the biggest thing that you have, no matter what you do for work, is time, your
yeah,
time, how you spend it. And I try to be, because I have kids, I'm very cognizant with my time. So when I'm at work, it's work. The days of the time that I'm with my kids, there's no work.
yeah,
Like, and my customer, most of my customers, almost all of them understand the dynamic, and my work for sure does. But like, if I'm with my kids, I will get back to you at my earliest convenience.
there's nothing wrong
I
with
have the
that.
ability to do that because I don't work for myself, right? Um, but then in return, the days that I don't have my kids, my phone doesn't get turned off. So if you want to call me at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday to go look at something because you don't want to wait till the morning, I'll do that. It'll cost you, but I'll do that. Um, but yeah, time is the biggest asset. And I think that there's a lot of people that don't understand that all the little shit that you waste the time with, I can't get back.
Right. And I mean, I really like that. I will help you, or I can send you a bill.
Right.
And I mean, I just took a little bit of time, and I like turned my phone off for a couple of days and just had like some relax, and like I kind of got the things that I needed out of that. I like had some things my soul needed, you
Yeah.
know, and I did that. Um, and one of those things that kept going through my head in the quiet time was just people wasting your time.
Mhm.
There's a lot of fucking complainers out there,
Yep.
and there's a lot of people that are saying they can do something. Like, for someone to say that they are like a top tier carpenter and all this other kind of shit, somebody that's gone through and done all the work to be a top tier carpenter, you're not the same. And like, you
Mhm.
shouldn't be saying you're the same.
Right.
And I think we're finding a lot of that on our end with the drywall finishing stuff is like, you've got guys that can do the work, but
Mhm.
the experience that comes with that is when there's something really hard or something goes wrong, or like the troubleshooting aspect of it, you don't have it. So you
Yeah.
shouldn't be charging what the guys are that can do it and do have it. And then when those things happen, typically you're going to call somebody like you
Right.
and go, "Hey, can you just catch me up on this for free and let me take some of your time?" Yeah, that happens. It happens across the
Yeah.
board.
And I think that like I would venture to say the majority of people don't try to waste or burn your time purposefully.
No,
They
they
might
don't
just
notice.
not, they just aren't cognizant or aware of it. Um, but you touched on a good point there. Like just because you can do some of the work, the real experience comes in when it's the diagnostic stuff, the
Mhm.
troubleshooting, or for lack of a better term, fixing somebody else's fuck up.
Hmm.
And so like there's a lot of guys that can assemble cranes. There's a lot of guys that can do basic services on cranes. But the guys that can go out and die, and I'm green to in the crane world. But like if you can go out like, hey, my crane's not doing this. And if you can go out and go from my crane's not doing what I need it to do to not only finding the problem, finding the source of the problem, correcting that, making the repair and getting him back going, that is where the experience comes in versus the guy that's like, oh, well, this isn't working. Well, what if we just throw a part at it? Like that's kind of the big thing in my industry is like the dudes that just hurl parts at it. They're like, oh, well, it's not I have weak functions. Well, let's throw a pump in it. I'm like, seems like a pretty big jump, but yeah, we can do that. I mean, I don't think that's the right. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to check first, but yeah, have at it. And the construction world is kind of notorious for that because time is money, especially when you have like bidding jobs or you're
Hmm.
set up on a schedule. So they don't care. Like there's some companies that I've had like they were having engine problems and they had like two field guys out and they couldn't figure it out and they're like throw an engine in it. Okay.
Wow.
And then we later found out that it was a corrupt ECM, but it wasn't giving codes back to whatever it needed to. It was a communication thing. But for that company, the lost time or the downtime was so great that the cost of an engine didn't matter to them.
Right.
Um, you have a lot of guys that try to fix craning it not as much just because they're expensive machines and usually you don't want like your run of the mill, you know, oil service mechanic to work on them. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying
No,
there's
no. Yeah.
a need. Um, but like construction guys will try to, and to their power, like they try to fix everything and do everything in house, unless it's a warranty thing where it's free from the dealer.
Right.
Like I'm not paying $200 for a cat mechanic to come out to put a new cutting edge on my bucket.
Right.
I'll torch it off, put a new one on, put it on. And then once it gets into the more complicated issues, that's when they, they'll call you or, maybe, and depending on the customer and the relationship, hey, I've tried this, this, and this. Hey, check this. Oh, that worked. Thanks, man. I don't have a problem doing that. Right. Like you build a relationship with the customer. But
Hmm.
if I've never talked to you before and you go, hey, my crane's not doing this. What have you tried? Well, I called you.
Hmm.
Okay. So what account do you want me to bill? Well, I just want to talk to you. My time, whether I'm fixing it or talking to you on the phone, is the same billable time.
That's right.
And like, that's just how it shakes out.
Yeah. And the funny part about that is until you're deep into it, you sit back and go, man, what a dick. It's like, what a dick, what? Like you're spending on somebody else's time for
Right.
free. And these are typically the people that are like in their car leaving at 5
Mhm.
and show up at 8:55
Mhm.
to start, that kind of stuff where it's like your time is very valuable to you. So
Mhm.
what's like, where's the disconnect there? And I also think, like you said before, I don't think a lot of people do that on purpose. I think the first time that you pick up your phone and you call somebody that really knows what they're doing and they fix your problem in like 10 seconds, you go, that was cool.
That was easy.
That was
Or,
super easy.
or right. This is a thing now.
Hmm.
And again, this kind of goes back to the relationship dynamic. Like if you're a customer that has me on, not a retainer, but like I'm a resident mechanic for you, yeah, you've kind of already you paid for that, right? If I have no idea who you are, where you're from, what company you work for, like I don't have a problem helping you, but if we get into this time in this phone conversation, I'm like, do you want me to come up? No, no, I don't want to pay for it. Okay, well, I don't want to give you stuff.
Yeah.
So,
We're the same. We don't want to waste each
right.
other's time. So
See, you don't want to spend money and I don't want to waste money. And unfortunately, those things are mutually exclusive.
it's a true thing, man. Everything is kind of a transaction. And when you said like relationship stuff,
Mhm.
100%. I have guys that like I've worked with, they've taught me stuff. Like we've just gotten along. Like there's a million reasons where I'll bend over backwards for those people
Mhm.
because they've earned that right.
Right. And that's like the give and take of it is that whether it's time or effort or energy or whatever, I don't want to say is being exchanged. And maybe you're just really good friends with them and you have a relationship that has nothing to do with work.
Yep.
I'm really
Yeah.
good friends with you and we have a relationship that isn't based on an exchange of goods or services or whatever, and you ask me a question, Absolutely, no problem. Because we don't have a relationship built on that transaction. Now,
Correct.
if we are, our friendship is based on, I wouldn't even say our relationship is based on me fixing your stuff and sending you a bill and you paying the bill. When you call me and ask me for stuff, probably that's what I am leaning to. It's not, hey man, I'm trying to fix this thing on my lawnmower. Like, do you have any advice? It's, that's your friend calling you because he's like, hey, I'm gonna do this. It'd be like if somebody wanted you to help with them with a project at their house.
100%.
And you get there and you start doing it and they're watching you.
That happens every time. Yeah.
If I'm not being paid for the services, and this, I don't even care if this sounds greedy. Like when my buddies call and say they have a project or something like that, the only buddies that I go to are the ones where like we're working, we are working. It's
Yeah.
not them like, hey, do you want me to hold the flashlight? Like,
Hmm.
nah, good. They got a magnet on them. Good. I could use your help doing this other part of this job though.
Yeah.
Like you called me over to your house to do. But
And there are definitely people that I know that are not as inclined as me in the construction world, but
mhm,
they are like, I'm doing this without you or with you,
yeah,
and sometimes if it gets complicated, the answer of like, what can I do? You can go grab two more beers. Like just give
right.
me 5 or 6 minutes. And then when we're done here, I'll, get you back helping me with stuff. Cause there is stuff that just takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more, you know, um,
Finesse.
finesse is a good word for that.
Yeah, like
Um,
I've helped buddies with like their tractors or their construction equipment at their house, and it's like if like oh it needs a valve adjustment. What can I do? You can watch,
yeah,
but like I don't really want you to be in with that.
yeah,
Like if I'm putting an engine back together and you know what you're doing, have at it. I also don't
totally.
want you to just start putting stuff where you think it goes in a different order because
Yeah.
engines like to be in a very specific order. The way
Hmm.
they um but yeah, I think it's not so much, and I've kind of learned that it's not them, it's me. Like it's not you, it's me. Um, it's you holding yourself accountable for what you think your value is,
Right.
right? Like if you don't see X number of value in you, why the fuck should they?
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna rely like I know what I'm worth and what this is worth, or whether it's goods or services or whatever it is. I know what I'm worth. If you don't see it, okay, then maybe you want somebody else. But I don't expect them to put the dollar value or whatever we're talking about for me without like you are your own keeper, right? So
Yeah. And I mean, for a long time in my life, I was that guy. Just call me and I will do it. I will help you.
yep,
Um, but I'm so fucking busy now, man. It's getting insane. And
yeah,
I like I'm in the messages helping people like with their life. Like this is what you should do to figure out what your time is and where you're spending the time and where you're wasting time.
yeah,
And then you hear from them again in fucking 3 weeks and they've done nothing. And
yeah,
now they're asking you more questions again. It's like those people have to go away this year. Like I really came to that conclusion in the last couple of days. And I
right.
think things are going to get easier, but it's also hard too, man, because like in your gut, you want to be helpful, but it's
Yeah,
like it
and
has to
that's
go
exactly it. Like, and I have relationships and friendships like that, and I mean, I'm sure I've been the one that has been on the other end of that, but it's just like
same.
if you're not going to do the effort, why would I give you effort?
Right.
Like, if you're not willing to take like somebody wants to break off as their own independent mechanic, you give them some, what or this, that, or the other thing. They call you for more stuff, but they haven't done any of the other stuff. Like, do you want to hire me to like consult on this? Or
Yes.
like I'll throw you like I'll help anybody. Like and I have a good like social media is great for that. You can make a lot of really good connections.
Totally.
Um, I have a bunch of mechanic friends on there. And if there's a question, they'll shoot me, like, hey, I'm a diesel mechanic, but this customer has an engine problem on a crane. Where's this? Well, I'm happy to lend an ear because when I have a Cummins problem on a different kind of crane, I'm gonna be like, hey, this isn't
Mem-
my forte.
Remember that time? Yeah.
Yeah, hey, you see the way this works is, but yeah, I think it's just more or less. It kind of always goes back to like you being, you're your best advocate. It's like when people want raises and jobs, like my
Mhm.
job doesn't offer me a raise. I'm like, nobody will advocate for you getting a raise harder than you, nor should they.
Right.
Like it sounds really like shallow, but if I'm your boss, if you don't ask me for more money, why would I give you more money?
Man, when I started in drywall, we had a guy out there named Toad, and he was like 50
Of a drywall name.
or
Yep.
so. Oh yeah, he was a fucking special guy. But he had never gotten a raise in the 20 years that he had been there. So whatever his starting rate was is what he makes still.
Nice. Perfect.
And it's like, no, well, no, I've never gotten a raise. And I talked to the foreman. I'm like, the fuck is going on here? He's like, he's never asked for one. No one is going to give you free money.
No, and
It's just
like
not going to happen.
that's like the worst business practice ever. From like if you're looking at it from like the employer standpoint, like if you're not gonna ask, like I'm gonna keep, like I wouldn't go down and buy sheetrock for $10 a sheet and then be like, actually, I think these are worth 12.
Yeah, I'm going to pay you some more for this because these are
No.
nice.
If you're like, hey, the price is now gonna be 12, you're like, all right, cool. Like I gotta, or you say, nah, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Same fucking concept with people.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I've talked with coworkers in the past, and they're like, oh, man, I've been here for like 2 years and I haven't gotten a raise. I'm like, have you asked? Not really. I'm like, I'd start there, right? Like
Hmm.
it's like a pretty good starting point is asking for what you want.
Yeah.
Now if your boss is like, fuck you, like I demand to be paid for what I'm worth, and they're like, well, we legally can't pay you that little, and you're like, all right, back to the drawing board, like, but I don't
It,
know.
I've always gone in high. Like whatever they were asking for, I was asking for the max of it, if not more.
Yeah.
And everybody's always been like, well, we don't do that. We don't pay our guys here. Not everybody makes that here. And my answer was always, okay, you pay me what you are paying everybody else, and I'll work for 3 months. And then in 3 months, you're going to give me the number I asked for. And sometimes I didn't want to stay past 3 months because like
Mhm.
the whoever I was working for
Just shit, yeah, yeah.
just didn't work out, right? It was like we are not the same. And then other times I've gone in for that meeting and they were sitting there like, ah, we're gonna have to pay this guy that money because like we can't not have him now.
Right. And I think the best, this isn't an original thought for me. I heard it somewhere, and I've used it twice now. Um, when you go to ask for a raise, I'd be like, hey, I want more money. The best way that I've seen it for, especially if your company knows what your value is and they're kind of anticipating it, is like, hey, what does it look like for me to get to that next pay scale? Like, what are you expecting out of me to get to that
Hmm.
next pay period? And if they're like, oh, well, you got to do this, or this. And honestly, my experiences have been a little different. Like when I'm like, hey, what does it look like? Usually they're like, so you're doing it, like, all right, we'll broach this top. Like they already know,
Yeah,
like,
you're there.
hey, this dude billed, like last year, I think my billables were $1.5 million in parts and labor.
Hmm.
And when I was like, hey, what does that next pay scale look like? Like my boss already knew, and he's like, you know, um, he goes, oh, I'll talk with John, the boss. And like a week later, he's like, hey, this is the number. It'll go in effect on this date, blah, blah, blah. To be fair, I'm also union, so it's a little different. So our union contract has like pay windows.
Right.
And you can be paid, contrary to popular belief, you can be paid above scale. That is at your company's discretion.
Right.
If top pay is $25 and you're billing $1 million a year, you can get paid more than $25 an hour.
Yeah.
If they say you can't, then you kick a rock out the front door, and when it hits an employer, you go work for them.
Hmm.
Like I don't think this is the best time to make the most money. And somebody I was talking to recently brought up the good point. Like there's always like, oh, companies say, oh, there's no loyalty. People leave them. Like that's a two-way street,
Yeah.
right?
What are you paying him?
If I'm going to be loyal to you, you need to be loyal to me and pay me what I'm worth. If I've brought you the top, brought it up, proved, I've done this, this, and this, and you're still like, nah, kick rocks. I'll go somewhere else for more.
Yeah.
Like, the grass is always greener is kind of the saying. And like, if you leave a company because of this problem, like, well, this company, wherever you go is going to have that problem with a different shade of lipstick. That's just how it fucking works.
Hmm.
But you can make money while you do it. Like,
Totally.
hey, this, middle management here sucks. Well, middle management there sucks too. I'm like, yeah, but for $2 or $3 more an hour, I'll suck that up.
Sucks less.
Right. Like, so to put it, I guess, in perspective, when I first became a mechanic, when I got out of the army, I think I was at like $24 an hour,
Hmm.
not shop tech. Um, and in the 5 years, 4 years, 4.5 years that I've done it. Now, granted, I have a lot of skills that I've gotten, certifications, classes, all that kind of stuff. Um, from what I did my first year as a mechanic, this year I tripled. Now I worked a lot of hours, like
Hmm.
a lot of overnights, a lot of travel. Like last year, I think I hit 46 states last year in 3 countries, and I drove 75,000 miles in my truck and flew 50. Um, I think I had 26 or 2,700 hours worked last year. So I've worked for it, but there's money to be made. If you're not making money, that is an exclusively you problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Those complainers, man, I'm always like, anything that is in your control, you ought
Mhm.
not be complaining about because you are the one that is in control of that. Like, I
Right.
would like to be in better shape. Okay,
Yeah.
go get in better shape. And then if you don't have time to spend a whole bunch of time at the gym, get onto your diet.
Right.
Like go for a fucking like do a million different things, but like complaining is not the beginning of that.
No.
And same with, my fucking work sucks. Good. Go find more work. Like
Right.
go and like don't quit your fucking job and then go do that. But start looking. Especially these days, everyone has a handful of guys in their company that the company is so tired of having there. But who are you going to replace them with? Nobody.
Yeah, and I think that's and the department that I work for has the same problem. There's, some bad eggs in there, and the big companies, so they're like, we got like one job applicant in like the last 6 months, or we can't fill this void. I'm like, well, you either better start trying harder to do that, because the senior guys that everybody likes that are really good are aging out. And not
Hmm.
me calling them old, but like
Yeah, that's what it is.
we had last year, last fall, we had 3 guys retire. One was with our company for 39 years, our company.
Whoa.
One was with our company for 29 years. And the one that most recently retired was with our company for 42 years. So you just, in our company alone, not even in a life experience, we lost 115 years of experience that
Yeah.
walked out the door. Now we have 3 apprentices, but we have 3 apprentices that are first years. They're going
Right.
to be time to train up. I mean, it's good that we have like a 1-for-1 body, but it's not a 1-for-1. Like, hey, this guy retired. It's not like we got some guy with 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience to take a spot. We got a guy that's like, hey, lefty's Lucy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, and so it's a process. And if you're not willing to spend the time and energy and money and effort to train your guys, don't be mad when the skill retires or leaves and you can't fill that void.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer in finding somebody that is worth your time and effort and training and then paying them really well, man.
Mhm.
Take care of them really well. If you can't pay them really well, give them 3 weeks vacation paid.
Right.
Do something.
There's a way to make it equitable for everybody, right? And like
Totally.
the union, I will say in my experience, the union's been great because you have a union back you when it comes to like your benefits. It's not a negotiable topic. Like you
Yeah.
can't be like, well, be like, actually, see, your giant legal team and the union's giant legal team had this meeting and we
Yeah.
negotiated this. There's a book with every rule in it. It is not up for debate. Well, I don't really want to pay you for that. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can pay it or I can go to the union, right? And On the flip side, when somebody's like, I think we should get more PTO. Okay, well, when we have our new contract negotiations, you can go have that topic discussion. Like
Hmm.
it's a give and take. And I think there's a lot, I hate to say it because I'm a younger dude, but like younger dudes think they should get more than probably what they should. And older dudes don't like to change. Like when you have
Right.
like I've worked here for 30 years and the last couple years have been the worst. I'm like, you're used to working for a mom and pop shop that
Right.
kind of lets you do whatever. I also noticed that you made $8 less an hour. You had 1 week less a year of PTO. You didn't have a tool allowance, and you didn't get 3 of the paid holidays that you get now. Well, then let me be late. Bitch, set your alarm clock earlier.
Go to bed, get some sleep.
If you leave the bar and have to drive to work so you're not late, you've stayed too long.
No shit. And I mean, when I was younger, I had those days.
Mhm.
100% I did.
We all
100%
have.
I did.
Yeah, like we were talking the other day. Like the other day, I went to bed at I don't know, right before I was supposed to be getting up to go to work. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take a 30-minute nap and I'll head to work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be cranky that day, but like that's my own bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not be like, oh, the fucking company makes us start at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, our hour, like the shop hour, I always laugh when it's I don't laugh at the shop guys. I just think it's kind of funny because like the shop's like 6 to 3. That's their hours. Fridays they get done at noon. The guys are like, whoa, I don't think we should do this or that. And then there'll be the same guys that bitch that they should get paid more. I'm like, or you can work more hours. Like you do you. But
Eh,
like I start my day, I'm out of my house by 4:30 every morning. And like today I got done early because I didn't have a lot and it was rain out. So like I worked this morning from 5 till I think I walked in the door right when you texted me. So
Yeah.
4:45 before that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just like I don't know, man. Like I don't have that shit. Like I like working.
Yeah, me
If I'm
too.
sitting, guys like are in the shop and they'll sit around and do whatever. They're like, oh, we don't really have much doing on, and they're fine doing that. I'm like, I want to be busy doing something. Like if I'm gonna be here, I'd like to do something. I like time goes faster. On the flip side, when the shop needs to be cleaned and I'm at the shop for whatever reason, and some guy's like, well, I don't want to sweep. I'm like, if you want to pay a union crane mechanic wage for me to sweep the floor, tell me where you want the dirt.
Oh yeah. It's going to be real, real clean.
Right. Yeah.
I think a lot of that comes down to discipline though, too, right? Like you need to understand what you want and you need to understand how to go get it. And then you just fucking need to do that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that are like big dreamers. I'm a big dreamer. Like
Mhm.
my big plans are stupid. But like every once in a while, some of them fucking pan out pretty good, man. But I work my balls off towards it.
Right. And that's the thing is like, there's nothing wrong with being a dreamer.
Hmm.
But if you're not going to do anything about it,
Yeah.
that's all it is. Right. Like if you're not taking steps towards whatever the goal or the dream is, then like I've
I-
dreamed that I have fucking Jeff Bezos's yacht and there's 10 perfect 10 models on it. Realistically, I'm not a tech guy. I have no money and I don't know a single model.
That's right. I don't even know where to start. Um,
I can't even spell yacht. I think it has a K.
it
Not
might
a,
have a K in it.
yeah.
Denzel Washington has this excellent quote that's dreams without goals are just dreams.
Yep. Yep.
And
I
it's,
think yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like if you don't take steps towards it, like congrats.
yeah, yeah, fucking give her, man. It's nice to daydream.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I got a new
See,
truck coming. That's pretty neat.
I was going to talk to you about the new truck.
Yeah, I'm fucking stoked. I
So
gotta
I,
see. We the other side of our company built the exact truck for one of our customers. So I went and parked my current truck next to it, and I'm like, all right, yeah,
I'm in the big boys club.
yeah, yeah. I
That,
told my like I get well, that was like the thing. My company's like, hey, you're gonna get a new truck, blah blah blah. And because part of our company builds and upfits trucks, they're like, we want it to look like not a show truck, but like we want to show everything. So my bot, like, he's like, give me a wish list, like this, like, give me a wish list. And I made the list, or where we had a meeting and I printed it off, and the big boss took the list and handed it to the purchasing agent. He goes, I would like everything on this list ordered so that by Q2 or Q3 it's here.
Nice.
I had never had that. Like, and see, like that's one of those things that like, don't get me wrong, I'm paid adequately, but like you want to keep people, that is the kind of shit that keeps people. I'm not saying
Hmm.
you have to go and buy them a $300,000 truck, but it's those kind of gestures and that kind of treatment that get people to stay. Like, well, the Joe's mechanic shop down the road's paying $1 more an hour. I'm like, cool. If I
Dope.
work 1 hour of overtime, I have now made up for, 2 months of $1 more an hour.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't care. Like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. And I mean, that's what always killed me when I was working for bigger companies. It's like, listen, man, I can get this done, but this is what I need. And instead of going, yup, they go, essentially, they go, let me go and make sure you're not an idiot. And then we're gonna run the numbers and then we're gonna see if we give a shit enough to give you what you need to do your job.
Right.
And those are not places that I stay
No.
because I'm not frivolous either. Like
No.
when I got access to like the vault of like all the tools and all the stuff at the one company that I was working for, if I needed Sawzall blades, I would take whatever closed box of Sawzall blades there was, or like bits. I'm not
Mhm.
taking 3 bits. I'm going to take this box of bits. And then when I fucking need more, I'll come back and it'll be
Right.
next year or something.
Right.
Like you're paying me for all of the travel to come back and forth anyways. How many times you do that before I
Well,
might as well have fucking taken this
right.
box?
And like we mechanics buy, I mean, so depending on where you're like where I work, we provide our own tools, and
Yes.
then specialty tools are purchased by the shop. Well, the longer you work in our trade, the more you realize that like I don't really like having to go back to the shop for a 2.5 inch socket. So you buy more tools. And like now in my service truck, there is two company tools. There's a transfer pump for when because I don't do fluid service that often. So I have a transfer pump that they bought because they wanted to have the accessibility of it. And I have one of those giant Milwaukee like rocket tower lights.
Oh yeah.
Those are pretty slick, but because my crane didn't come with the LED lights on the boom tip, which is kind of nice to have as like a work light, they gave me one of those. I'm like, I already have multi tools, fuck it. But everything else on the truck I bought, and that's kind of the thing. The newer mechanics now want to buy the minimum, and so like my rule that I learned when I first started, like if you borrow it twice, you buy it.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where like because we were busy enough, if I borrowed your tool once, I was buying it. Like
Yep.
it just wasn't. I don't care. Is it a lot of money in tools? Yeah, but they stay with you. And I don't see them as like people talk about them as like an investment. Like, well, when I retire, I'm like, listen, if your 401k sits in that Snap-on box, I hope you like ramen, right?
Hmm.
Like they're just something I have. And like some of the stuff like, when I retire, yeah, obviously I'll sell some of the stuff probably to some of the newer guys. Like I don't foresee a lot of uses of 1 inch drive sockets in everyday home items. Like
No.
I'm not looking to take off the telephone pole outside my home,
Right.
right?
And if you
Um,
are, you probably shouldn't have the means to do it.
right, right. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where like old school mechanics bought everything and they're the dudes that have stickers that says like, keep your dick beaters off my tools, this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
And I forget, there was a guy, um, heavy, heavy wrenching or heavy something. And he I was talking with him and he goes, the best piece of advice I can give you, because this was when I was first starting out, is he goes, find one of the senior guys or one of the older guys. And if you build a good enough relationship with him, ask to go look at his toolbox. Don't move shit around, but like go look. Whatever's a high wear tool or is in a top drawer that's readily accessible, buy that tool.
Hmm.
If you have to dig through bins of shit, it's probably not a tool he uses every day. And so every shop that I worked at, the two dealerships that I worked at before I got into the mine stuff, that's exactly what I did. I found the old dude, kind of built a relationship with him, or a senior guy. I'd talk to him on tools on break. When we had break or lunch or whatever, I'd go with their permission. Don't, if you wander into somebody's toolbox in a shop, just know you're probably going to get kicked.
Yeah.
Uh, and whatever was a worn tool or whatever it was, I added it to my list because I did not like borrowing tools. There's nothing, and maybe it's like an ego thing, but like there's nothing worse than being like, hey, you have this tool. They're like, yep. I'm like, can I please borrow that tool? I'll do that once. I'm sure as fuck not doing it two, three. Like we had a guy the other day in the shop. He's like, hey, can I borrow that ratchet again? I'm like, my half-inch drive. Yeah, sure. Why do you not have one? I don't really want to buy one. Okay, well, you've used mine like 7 times. I don't care if you go to fucking Harbor Freight or Northern Tool and buy whatever the cheapest one is. It doesn't need to say Snap-on on it. Like
Right.
I have all kinds of tools. I like Snap-on ratchets, so all of my ratchets are Snap-on. But impact sockets, you don't need to buy like if you can find a cheaper tool with a lifetime warranty, like people knock, Sonic, Gray Pneumatic, whatever. I've never broken one of those sockets. I've never had to warranty it. I'm pretty hard on shit. Like if I
Yeah.
put a 1 inch socket on a 3/4 breaker bar, it's either coming off or it's breaking.
Right.
I
One of the
have
two
enough,
is giving up.
right? Like I have enough leverage that like I'll get it. Um, but yeah, and I guess I don't. So I'm not familiar with the other trades. I don't work alongside them. Like as a mechanic, when you work in the shop, you don't deal with any trades, and then when you're a field mechanic, you work with basically like earth moving companies,
Hmm.
landscape guys. For crane, like I work with iron workers and stuff like that. But like I don't know anything about like drywall. So I don't know anything about the tools, but I'm assuming that if you're your own shop, you obviously have your own tools. But like if you have an apprentice, what do you require your apprentices or your young guys or interns like? What does that look like? Hey, you have to have a list of small tools, or you got to have a tool
Yeah.
belt in it, and then I'll provide the fancy carbon fiber taping machines or
I
whatever.
I like that you said that. So typically, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to bring somebody on and they are green, like absolutely green, you should have a full set of like small tools that you're going to hand them.
Yep.
Here's a present from me. As you break them, you
Yep.
replace them.
Yep.
And the ones you replace are now yours, right? And
Yep.
eventually you'll have a whole set of tools, but you don't need to do all that right today.
Right.
But then it turns into, can you run the boxes now? Have you learned how to do that correctly? Then you ought to fucking have your own. You
Now,
know,
boxes being like that carbon fiber tape stick thing that the tool
yeah.
show.
So the
You put tape in it
boxes.
and there's like wet, there's mud.
No, so that's a
Okay.
taper, but same
Okay.
thing. Like a taper is a big expense. That's like a $2,500 tool.
Okay.
So you should realistically, if you're running the taper to the point that you're good at it, you really should be on your own.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you're getting taken advantage of. The lead guy's always running it, but like the like angle stuff and boxes and nail spotters, like smaller item things, that's typically what you'll start guys out getting comfortable with. But once you're
Yeah.
comfortable with it, you really should be buying things on your own. Now, the guys that don't do that, um, at some point that relationship starts to wear, where it's like
Mhm.
every time the thing gets put away dirty, every time there's a nick in it, every time they've
Right,
got to
because
do,
they're not taking on it. They're like, well, it's your fucking tool.
yeah,
You're like,
it's
yeah, but
boss's
you use
stuff.
it, dipshit. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, we have the same thing. So like when you brought up the taper, like if you look in seasoned mechanics toolboxes or service trucks, I'll say service trucks are a little different because you ain't running back to the shop for it. Like most of the guys buy it. The
Yeah.
guys are like, well, that 1 inch Milwaukee impact is $1,000.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you see it as $1,000 expense that you can't afford, you probably don't do enough jobs with it because the guys that run it a lot are like, this is an absolute value.
Hmm.
Same with like multimeter, like when you get into your testing stuff, that's really where it gets expensive. Like, I have laser phototac to check speeds on stuff. I got a bunch of multimeters. I got test leads out the wazoo. And if you don't know what it is or how to use it, you don't need it.
Right.
Like, same with that, like you said, the tape thing. Like, if you can't run it, you probably don't need to buy one. I mean, if you want to, have at it, man. Like,
It.
all the power to you. But if you can't use the tool, you probably don't need to buy it. Like, we have one of our field techs he bought the Snap-on hydraulic torque wrench, and they're
Mhm.
dumb expensive. Like, I think if you get the kit, it's 5 figures. But one guy's like, well, I'm not buying that. Well, you don't do enough things to justify buying that. Like you barely use the one that we have in the shop, so I wouldn't expect you to go out and buy that. I do expect you to have a 3/8 impact, half
Yeah.
inch impact, like your everyday things. But yeah, when you get some of those like specialty tools and specialty wrenches, like, oh man, those torque adapters are $400 a set. If you use them enough, that doesn't seem like a big thing.
No. And I mean, like talking about that taper, once you have it,
Mhm,
it pays for itself pretty quick
mhm,
because you're probably 3 or 4 times faster than you would be without it. And I mean,
mhm,
some guys that are really good with it are probably like 5 or 6 times faster
mhm.
than they would be without it. Um, and that's kind of the difference because when you don't own something and you have to turn around to go somewhere to get it, like it back at a shop or something like that, you're burning your time.
Yeah,
Like it's just at some point it becomes not worth it.
yeah,
It just makes more sense to just have.
yep,
And I mean, if some kid showed up with a full set of tools, I'd let him run them
right,
in a room. Just
right,
like figure it out. If you've made
right.
the
Runs
investment,
them in a room.
I will let
And he
you use
doesn't
them.
do, you're right. He runs them and he doesn't do that. You like make some notes or whatever, but like
Hmm.
I'm not gonna say, oh, well, you're not the lead man. Go put that back in your truck.
Never.
Like, you
Yeah.
got it. Fucking run it. Run it if you got it.
Run it if you got it, people.
Yeah. Are you so here's the real question. Are you team red or team yellow tools?
I'm Hilty. So
I suppose okay, so like that's an industry difference because like Hilti makes five tools that are good for mechanics.
yeah.
Um,
Milwaukee don't.
but for
To,
construction, they're
yeah.
they're great.
Yeah, to answer the question, Milwaukee. So when I was doing industrial, not industrial, commercial builds,
Mhm.
I was finding myself in positions like where I was putting a tech screw through I-beams all day, and I was just blowing up DeWalt stuff all the time. Now we were also being given that DeWalt stuff, so it
Right.
was probably bottom of the barrel tech.
Mhm.
Get them the cheap ones. And once I kind of learned that there are better units for what you're needing to do with them, I had already dipped my toe into the Hilti
Right.
stuff.
Well,
Um,
if you're in the cordless line, which I'm assuming you are, like
oh, totally.
you're
Yeah.
you're married to the battery. So if I have a bunch of Milwaukee tools, DeWalt just released this new tool. Unless that tool is kind of like game changing, I'm married to that Milwaukee battery platform, and I'm sure as
Hmm.
fuck not going to spend 400, 500, $600 on DeWalt batteries for one other fucking tool. And in a service truck, and then maybe like yours is different because you go places with power, but like I only have so many outlets on that thing, right?
Hmm.
And I'm not going to have a Snap-on charger and a Milwaukee charger and a DeWalt charger and a Makita charger.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the big speed charger from Milwaukee and throw every one of my batteries on that thing so I always have fresh power.
I've got the little briefcase where you put 6 batteries on it,
Mhm.
and it just chain.
Yep. It just
I
chain charges them. Yep.
haven't had a dead battery in a long time. Like I've never had to wait on batteries
Yeah.
for a long time. Um,
I use
uh,
air tool. I mean, I don't use air tool. If I bring out air tools, like we are getting after it.
yeah,
I have onboard air in my truck. Like I have a hydraulic screw compressor.
that's sick.
Uh, but like I'll use like a needle scaler. Like when I carbon gouge welding, you need air. But like if I bring out the air gun, like we're taking off a lot of like track pads
Yeah, okay.
because even though I have a 1 inch or a 3/4 inch Milwaukee gun, I'm going to get five of those things out and I'm going to start flashing battery warnings. Whereas the air, you just rip. The air compressor will be like, well, the air compressor is loud. It's heavy equipment. Everything's loud. Truck's
Yeah,
loud. Air compressor's loud. People are loud.
yeah. I just assume have my headphones in anyways. Like,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I get that. Nate, I work with Nate. He's another one of the guys out here. And he got some new Columbia stuff. I got some extra handles and stuff like that. So I kind of hooked him up with a couple of things. And then he got a new saw and then brings me his old DeWalt saw, dope saw. It's just he's moved platforms. And I was like, oh, I've only got so many batteries for it or whatever. And then he brings in 2 batteries. And I was like, you're a good man.
Yeah.
Because it's like that would have just sat. I would have appreciated the gift, but it just would have sat at home.
So there's a company, I'm sure it's an Asian company, but they make converter plates. So
Hmm.
you have DeWalt batteries, you can put the converter plate and run them in Milwaukee and I mean whatever. Somebody's like, these are great. I'm like, yeah, until you pick up your drill and there's 500 fucking a day. It looks like the fucking caps for sale book that you read to your kids. You're like, I got a battery. You're like, I would have spent the money to get the right battery and then not had, a fucking Stanley Cup hanging off the end of my DeWalt drill. But yeah, you do you, man.
So have you seen these like uh Amazon fake Milwaukee batteries that want to blow your house up?
Yeah, definitely dope. We have one guy in the shop that bought one, and all of a sudden I watched it get like mock Jesus out the shop door because it started smoking and he kicked it out, and when he let go of it, it like the whole bottom blew up. He's like, that was my first time using that, and also my last time using that.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Well,
the amount of money you spend on that, like the batteries are expensive, but the tools are also expensive. And the last thing I want to do is put a Chinesium battery in this thing and turn it into an IED in my hand.
yeah, this shit is gonna explode in my
Right.
truck. Why are we
Right.
doing that?
Right. Yo, you store batteries in your truck? Yeah, I don't want my truck to burn down. Like, I'll just buy the Milwaukee batteries. I'll spend the money. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shortcuts, man. And I mean, in your industry, shortcuts fucking kill people. Like,
So, like, we make every mechanic or field mechanic modifies tools for certain applications or jobs, right? You grind the side of a wrench down so it's narrower. So everybody in most trades is familiar with OSHA.
yeah,
There's an organization when you're in mines called MSHA.
okay,
They make the OSHA inspectors look like the most forgiving people on earth. They will
with that.
dump your truck, and anything that's modified is flagged. If you have caps off of bottles, you are flagged. If you get out of your truck without a hard hat, you are flagged. Even if you're so like the dudes that keep the hard hats in the back because they don't really use them, they have before they go in on site, they have to go get their hard hat and their vest, and you get used to it. Like, which is why again, like I buy everything that most of the clothing that I buy now at this point is good no matter what place I go to. So it's got the striping reflective or the FR because you never know. Like, especially with a few, like, for as many times as I bounce around, I might go to a mom and pop shop in some dude's yard because they're pulling trees and they have a crane. I might go to a power company after that and everything has to be FR. Well, I don't really feel like changing in a gas station bathroom. So I'm just going to wear FR jeans and an
Mhm.
FR shirt to start with. Like, why? Is it more expensive? Yeah, I'm not gonna knock it. Um, I get company assistance, and then obviously we work with Troll, so I
Yeah,
just get Troll FR stuff. Um, and then a lot of the companies for me, like the customers themselves, will kind of hook me up. So like the power companies out west, the linemen will be like, "Oh, I have a pair of boots that don't fit me," and then I get a pair of Kenetrick boots. Like it just, they always you kind of take care of your own. Like I'll bring them crane swag and stuff like that and whatever. But yeah, good gig.
good gig. Yeah, man, this is a new troll hat. It
Yeah, I
goes,
saw it. I think I have that color scheme, but it's like the round logo, the
yeah,
little like I like that one too. Um, the only downside is, and maybe you don't have to do with it, but like all of my hats have one or two snaps if I'm lucky.
same.
Like, and I commented, I told our homeboy, I'm like, hey, every time we're talking about something, like, it'd be cool to have adult size hats. And meanwhile, like I'm looking at some of the people, I'm like, these bucket hats make them look like, people from the Peanuts cartoons, like Charlie Brown, and they're like, these hats are too big. I'm like, dude, mine fits like a yarmulke. Like it just sits on my
Yeah.
head all day.
So some of these, like this one, I think is the
Yep.
same build, and like I can with those two snaps,
Hmm.
I can almost tuck my ears into them, and then some of them I gotta like it's on the last one.
Yeah, this hat's like two. There's no way
Mhm.
I'm tucking my ears in. Like I can sit this
Yeah, just on the
this
top of your head, and it sits there.
um yeah, I don't know. I just really like it's a good I mean, it's cool that they like hook us up and we keep stuff going. And I like that
Fuck yeah, man.
it's all like people driven content. So you see somebody and what blows my mind is you'll get these big companies like and I love Ariat clothing. Like I like their PPE, it's great stuff. I don't really care for like their logo stuff, but their jeans are great. Um, but like you look at their ad campaigns and you're like, that motherfucker has no idea what they're doing with that tool.
Yeah.
And like, how do you run like how disconnected is your marketing team that and you see it in like tool advertisements. You see this dude using this saw, and you're like, if that guy has ever used that saw before, that's
Mhm.
not how he's using.
Yeah, you're on the wrong side of the cut or whatever,
Right.
and they
They're
don't
like
know it.
looking, I'm like, that's the trash end. Why do I care where that line is? Like, I'll cut an X on that bitch. Like,
Yeah.
nah.
Yeah,
Or
I
they're using
think
the best thing is when they're using the tool improperly. And you're like,
yes.
nobody caught this. Nobody in marketing, publicity. You didn't ask an engineer, like, hey, am I supposed to hold this drill in the kill shot form or like regular form? Like,
Hmm. Do you hold
yeah,
it upside down and use your pinky?
right. Are you
Of
lining up
course.
underneath it? Yeah.
You know what though? And we've had that conversation in the troll group too, is there's a huge disconnect between big companies and people
Mhm.
that fucking know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, it's trying to bridge that gap because anybody that has the experience that we do has been working for the last
Mhm.
20 years.
Mhm.
So if you've not been working for the last 20 years, what you may have been doing is building a following.
Mhm.
And what you may have been doing is figuring out contracts and photography. And now you're very good at making content. And good for those people.
Yeah.
It's a life choice for sure. But you're not going to go and put on a marketing campaign for samurai swords. If you've never used a samurai sword, you're going to look stupid.
Right.
But if
Some
no,
Japanese dude's gonna be like, why you America, Karate Kid?
right, you ruin everything.
Right.
But I mean, all the way down that line, that gets handed to a marketing person, that gets handed to an editor, that then gets looked at by so and so, and then approved by so and so. Nobody in that column knows what's going on. So
Right.
that's how things like that happen.
Right. Like whoever's in like, and you have to also look at like the transition from different roles, right? Somebody in my role, I'm not gonna say never, but very few in my role are gonna go be a marketing person.
Mm-mm.
I've seen mechanics go into sales roles because they
Mhm.
know the product, they know the efficiencies, they know all this stuff. I don't think any of us have been like seen a mechanic be like, hey, do you want to take pictures? And they're like, I have 75,000 pictures of broken equipment on my phone. None of them are in focus though.
Yeah, they
Like,
don't look good, but I did
yeah,
them.
yeah. See this? I fixed that. What is
Yeah.
it? I couldn't tell you. Yeah,
What is that? Not broken
yeah,
anymore.
that's fixed. Next question. It's like Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I don't get fined by the NFL. Yeah,
Oh,
just crushing Skittles in the interview.
good times.
Yeah,
Good times.
yeah.
You still hitting the gym?
Yeah, I didn't go. I'm kind of back on. Like I have a powerlifting coach, so we're kind of deciding if I'm going to try to get ready for a powerlifting meet or not. Gonna look at some of
Nice.
the numbers and see where I'm at. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like as much as my back has had some military injuries, and I am a mechanic, so everything fucking hurts. My
Hmm.
deadlift's always my biggest lift, so we're gonna try to get back up into the mid sevens.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah,
That's big numbers, dude.
yeah. Right
So
now, I
how,
think. Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you even start getting into competition like that? You would have to take a look at what everyone else's numbers are and then see what the gap bridge is. And could you get
So
there?
the best advice that I ever got was actually from the guy that I'm getting coaching from now is like, just do one.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
go
and
see.
I will say that like the powerlifting community as a whole is phenomenal. It doesn't matter if you're about to break a world record or this is your first meet ever. They cheer you on. Like your powerlifting isn't like a normal competition where like I care what you do. Because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, I'm like what my numbers are is what I can do. If you're a bench guy and you're going to put up close to that 500 mark, and I'm not a bench guy, I'm going to play my game. I'm going to do what I do and do that. But the best thing is to just do a powerlifting meet.
Right.
It's straight like you might finish last, you might finish in the middle of the pack. Fuck, you might finish first, depends on what the brackets are. But just doing one because that's gonna like get it. You're like, all right, I want to do more.
Or
But
I
everybody
don't.
like, I've only met one person that was like, I'm gonna wait until I can win. Ironically enough, he's my barber.
Okay.
Big like Puerto Rican dude, and he has done two powerlifting meets. He broke a state record in one and won it, and then the other one he won as well. But he just waited. He's like, I like to lift. So I'm like, you should do a meet. And so he looked up what his class was and what his numbers were, and he catered his training plan to that. But yeah, he had like a 490 bench, 650 or 660 squat, and I think his deadlift was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, because at that point you're just like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can hit the world record. And when I can, I'll go to the meet.
Right. The only
Solid.
downside with that is if you're chasing 800 pounds, 800 pounds is the current world record. You're not going to get there overnight. So while you're training for that, the dude that hit 800 pounds is also training for his next target.
Yeah.
So it's, this, that, and the other thing. People see like they'll look up powerlifting on Instagram or TikTok and they see guys like, well, I'll use John Hack as an example. I'm pretty sure he's like a 190-pound lifter and he has like a 500 something bench. He's got like
Jeez.
a 7 something squat, and I think his deadlift's over 9. Like maybe like you're looking at you're like, I don't know if I can do that. Honestly, you probably can't. Like, I don't want to be a dick, but you're also not competing for a world title, so you'll probably do fine at your local meet. Have
Yeah,
fun with it.
that's
Like
true.
if you're not enjoy it's like work. If you don't enjoy it, why fuck it? Go find something else. Go if you don't enjoy the process of powerlifting, don't fucking do it because it's exhausting and you're sore all the time.
Yeah, but there's like an energy when you get around people like that. Cause it's,
Yeah.
in my opinion, when I see somebody lifting, I don't look at the weight, I look at them. And I'm like, oh, do you think he's going to do it? And then if I don't think he's going to, or it's like questionable, when they do, you're stoked.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, man, good for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it was 500 pounds or 200 pounds or
Right. And
whatever.
like in my gym, the two main types of gym goers are bodybuilding fitness competitors and powerlifters.
Right.
Um, I don't think I've ever been at a gym and seen somebody, I'll say smaller than me, a smaller person lifting something and been like, hey, can I get a spot? Doesn't matter who it is. Like one of the guys I live with, Caleb, like I think his bench is like 600 pounds. Like he's an absolute monster. That guy will go spot the dude that is trying to hit 75 pounds. He's just there to help. And if somebody asks for advice, he gives it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, he doesn't give unsolicited advice. But like, it's almost like a community without being one. Like, I think that's the big thing. I'm not a CrossFit person.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to, if you can get more people to do fitness, it's a win. People are like, well, they're not doing real pull-ups.
Okay. But
Well,
they're doing 50 of them
right. But like
today.
you're saying this from the comfort of your couch.
Hmm.
So, but like if you can get people into something more, I think it's a win. Like people talk about, well, this isn't real, whatever. If I can get more people interested and build that community and broaden people's horizons, I think it's a win across the board. Like, look, I mean, CrossFit was super small a long time ago, and now there's, Wadapalooza. And I went to last year, I went to the CrossFit Games in Madison, Wisconsin. It was super cool to meet all those people. Everybody's pretty short, but like just jacked
Yeah. Yeah.
because in lifting, it doesn't pay to be tall.
Yeah. You got to lift it
Because
up
you're
higher.
you're
Yeah.
moving the weight. Like if I'm 5'5" and I can deadlift 500 pounds, that distance is traveling way less than the dude that's 6 feet tall.
Right.
And then you see the anomalies that are like there's a Swedish guy and he's like 6'5" and he's putting up big numbers, but it's like, when that dude does a power clean, that weight's 8 feet
Yeah.
in the air. When you do a power clean, it's 6.5 feet in the air.
Yeah.
The weight has to move, whether you move it a little distance or a long distance. So,
Yeah, I kind of liked that community. So my cousin's a firefighter, and I don't think he doesn't do CrossFit, but those are more of the techniques of training where it's like usable, it's explosive. Like
mhm,
if he's got to pick up a body and run with it, he can do
mhm,
that.
right.
And one of their friends I got real close with, and she is jacked and loves it, and that's what she does. But that whole community, like if you're going for PRs or something, the whole gym's there cheering you on.
Yeah, and
Like,
I've been to like a couple CrossFit classes or whatever they're called, WODs. And the dude that finishes first, what that means is that's the first dude that starts cheering everybody else on till the last person. It doesn't matter if, oh, he did it in 21 minutes and you're at minute 48. The entire gym is there hyping you up, like,
Hmm.
because they want, it's kind of like the, high tides raise all ships.
Yep.
I
One
think
more
that's
rep.
right. Like, that's, I don't know. I like the community of that. And I think that's why a lot of people um, join group activities. Like,
Hmm.
we'll say bowling. Um, if you really like bowling, bowl in a league. You're gonna want to get better, so it's more fun. It's like golf. The better you are at it, the more fun the fucking sport is.
Hmm.
But you're with other like-minded people. It's kind of like when you go to a trade show, right? Like I went to Con Expo. Is it cool to see all the equipment? Absolutely.
Yeah.
The people are way cooler than any
Yes.
piece of equipment, and the networking and the relationship you build. Because if you go to a trade show, very few people go to a trade show and are like, this fucking sucks. It's
Hmm.
all people that are stoked on it, whether it's a drywall dude or a roofer or a concrete guy or a carpenter. There's a bunch of like-minded individuals with a big common denominator, which is whatever that event is, and you get to meet them. Like, you build community, and I think that's a huge thing.
That's a huge thing for me with that troll group. So,
Yeah,
like 2 years ago ish, I started kind of really thinking about community in my space. And then last year, like I travel around and work with people. We like all get onto the same sites. Like it's constant, especially with the podcast. Um, but then like when that troll group, they kind of pulled that curtain to the side and it was just like, yeah, all the people like you that work their ass off and like they're it's kind of weird to find people like you. There's 100 of them in this group.
right.
And you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
and it's that like-mindedness again. Like I don't know shit about bricks and I don't know anything
well,
about
right. Like, and
cranes
I think
and
it's dope when people post what they do. Like,
yeah,
I
man.
don't know shit about tile work, but watching the guys do tile, like, that's pretty fucking cool. Or
Yeah.
brickwork, or whatever anybody else does. Like, and there's some things that I find cooler and more interesting, but they're things typically that I can relate to. Like,
Right.
tiling's super cool. Watching somebody build out a house is super cool. I have zero experience with that. I will, it's rad to watch, but when I see, like Brock and Blaine doing crane shit, like, that's my shit. So I think that's cooler, but that's
Yeah.
just because that's something I'm more knowledgeable on.
When you know what they're doing. Like I think a
Right.
lot of people that are watching the stuff that we put out, if you don't know what the tools are, it just looks really cool. But if it's like a weird technique that they're doing that turned out good, you just
Right.
wouldn't catch that because
Right.
you
Like,
don't.
you like, if you're like, Blaine posted that he made that like diagnostic din board or whatever.
Mhm.
Somebody that deals with that shit every fucking day, that thing is fucking awesome. To the person that follows Blaine because they like crane pictures, they're like, this is wires with plugs for a computer in it,
Yeah,
right? Like, that's kind of the common thing right there.
and that all makes sense.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Troll?
Fuck, like 3 months maybe. I
Oh yeah,
think
okay. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I'm new, and I think if you scroll back on Troll's page 5 years, 4 years. Um, I have a bunch of pictures on like their main site, like for one of their hats. I had like, but I've had troll like since I got in the trades. When I left the military, like that was the biggest thing was leaving the military. I'm like, I don't really fuck like you're not gonna build that relationship and that brotherhood anywhere else. I'm people are like, well, it's like when you go to a restaurant or you go to work somewhere, they're like, we're like a family here. I'm like, this place is gonna be toxic as fuck.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you mean that because you all hate each other quietly?
Right, right. So is there a lot of domestic abuse here or what? But like that's the community you find in the trades because and I think it sounds really weird to say, but like it's the communal suffering.
Hmm.
And like for you guys, like you have long days, but like in earthworks, the dude that's in that hole digging that water main that some dipshit wrecked on a Friday night, it's miserable. But I will put money that at one point everybody's laughing. They're like, could be at the bar right now, but I'm fucking ankle deep in fucking septic water, and but we're all here together. So then you watch somebody fall and you fucking laugh at him, and then he laugh. Like, you just build the camaraderie, and I think that's what I like the most about the trades, and I think that's what drew me to troll when I first started was like it seemed like it was real people.
Yeah.
You look at their even like way back in the day, you go to their website, it wasn't some stock image bullshit or like some super ripped dude in a t-shirt or some, like smoke show of a lady in a woman's tank top. Like they're tradespeople in the clothing.
Yes.
Like it's like when you go to a store that has mannequins and they're all fucking 6 feet tall and jacked, you're like, that polo looks good. I'm not gonna wear it.
Yeah, it's not
But
gonna look good on me, but it looks
good,
good.
good for the plastic man. Um, and I think that's like giving it that like dose of authenticity.
Hmm.
That's really what and it goes back to like like you see the people that do drywall stuff or tape stuff. The authenticity is there because you understand it and you see it and you can see the value in it.
Right.
And troll as a whole, the message isn't like you don't have to be in the trades to rock troll stuff. Like they have rad
No.
design. If you're in it makes it makes more sense, I guess, so to speak. Um, and like they have some designs that are more specific to a trade, and maybe the people in that trade like it. But the broad consensus is like the ones that are just generic and have cool stuff on them, everybody likes.
Hmm. Yeah, like
I'm also somebody that will buy every black t-shirt that any company has because as a big dude who works with greasy shit all day, I don't want a white t-shirt.
right. Oddly enough, the medium that I work with is white and all my stuff is still black.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, my cranes are yellow, but my hands are black.
yeah, no shit. It's too funny, man.
Yeah.
When you're doing traveling and stuff, is it mostly um like training?
No.
No, so you're flying places to do jobs.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I flew to Boise because they
Hmm.
had a big like a 350-foot man lift. Like it's tall enough you can walk into a wind turbine.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, the basket level when it went out to full stick wouldn't level. Well, there's a very small niche of people that work on it are certified. So I flew out there and like when I travel, I will bring I'll bring PPE, so like my harness and shit like that, and specialty tools that the average person like certain connectors. My computer is my biggest thing because it's got software, all my plugs. But typically, if a company flies me out somewhere, they have an in-house mechanic or a shop that's going to have all my everyday small tools. Like I'm not bringing a 3/8 drive ratchet set.
no.
I'll bring my $10,000 laptop with software.
Right.
Like that's what they really care about. Like they have mechanics. Um, and then some job, I mean, when I drive places, obviously, I cover 7 states in my service, 6 states in my service truck. I have my shop with me. And like some guys are like, well, you don't have the shop. I'm like, I don't need the shop. My truck has a crane and a welder and an air compressor and a battery charger and all my tools are in it. Like I have a mobile shop. It looks different than your shop, but like for me, working out of a service truck is easier because I'm not running across the shop to get something or hoping that somebody's not using the overhead crane. I have everything that I need and I am the only one that needs it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it is waiting for you.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of that's why I like working by myself. Well, I can't really say I like people. I like socializing with people that I know, but I don't really like
Yes.
people.
I'm not a
Um,
fan of most people.
yeah. So riding, people are like, well, doesn't it, get lonely riding in the truck all day? I'm like, not really. No.
Nope.
Like if I have a long drive, I'll call people, like as I'm sure you're aware, like I'll call you. But you just kind of get used to it and you enjoy it. So like I had a new field guy ride along with me for like 3 weeks last year to kind of help learn some ins and outs. Like day 2 came and I was like, doing this still again. All right. Well, if you touch my radio one more time, I will leave you at a gas station.
Yeah, you're like, wow, you sure do talk a lot.
I know, and that's the thing is like he was everybody's like, oh, he's not really super social. That dude got in my truck and wouldn't shut the fuck up. I'm like, so I like slowly start turning the radio up, and he's like, oh,
Hmm.
it's kind of loud.
You
Weird,
should be quiet.
weird, weird. Yeah,
Weird.
yeah, odd.
I I've had this conversation with you about like business class and first class and like
Hmm?
playing the game.
Yeah, I'm all
Um,
about playing that game.
I'm all about playing that game now. And
Yeah, you see,
this,
once you start seeing a little bit of it, you're like, holy shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
I always check now what the upgrade is. And I mean, like just even just a step up, like a little bit more room or whatever.
yeah,
But my bag was 3 pounds over on my flight home, and it was going to be $140 to ship a bag that was 3 pounds over, or it was 180 to upgrade to first class.
and do it for free.
where you get a free bag
Yeah.
at as much as they're like, is it a dead body? That's fine. You get two of them.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. You get a free.
Yeah. So I was like, that's obviously what I want to do. One of the things I wrote down a couple of things here. That's but eye contact is one of those things. When
Mhm.
you are in an airport, nobody that works there, nobody that is flying there is looking right at you because I think they are trained to know that you have a question.
Yeah.
And like same when you're in anywhere but first class is the same
Yep.
thing. They walk right past you unless you
Yep.
push that button, they're not
Yep.
coming to talk to you.
No.
When you're in first, you I looked up at the guy because he was looking at me. Like if someone's looking at me, I make eye contact with them. It's
Yep.
like
And they're
it's
like, "Oh, do you need something?" You're like, "No, I just your face was looking at mine, so I returned
yeah,
the favor." But thank you.
I didn't want to be rude.
Right. It's like Ricky Bobby, like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Pretty much.
My fuck.
I did find out that they will give you 8 beers in a row before they start going, are you sure?
Yeah, see,
Uh
I just drink bourbon.
I know I didn't want to do that. I had a connecting flight and I was like, I'm gonna drink that extra $40 for sure.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, and I'm lucky I didn't because my flight landed and then I ran, believe it or not,
Yeah.
to like the other gate and just got in. So if I had done what I thought I was doing, I would have been sleeping in Chicago,
Yeah, attaboy.
which I mean, there's worse things to
See,
do.
well, so like when you travel, you are obviously your own boss, and either you're traveling for work or whatever. If I'm traveling, I am on the clock. So, mm, hey, we're offering, unless I have somewhere that I have to be timeline wise, they're like, hey, we're offering $500 in credits to take the next flight in an hour and a half.
Cool.
Cool. I'll take that hour and a half of pay and that $500 and put it in my pocket, and I'll take the next flight out.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
But that's like the only catch and caveat is that when you're flying, if somebody's flying me out for their machine, there's probably a good chance that it is a urgent matter. Um, so that's where it pays to be like, hey, I don't care what the ticket price is. Like me flying, and luckily I live in my local airport, Minneapolis is 10 minutes from my house. It's an international hub. There's
Beauty.
very few places that I can't take a direct flight to, maybe some podunk town. But for the most part, these customers live in big places. So like if I can fly MSP to Salt Lake City with no layovers, I will absolutely do that
Hmm.
because I don't care. Oh, it's $200 more. What's more important? I'm going to be $200. We bill out at $195 an hour, whatever it is, um, for me to wait in an airport and maybe miss my flight, or we spend $200 and I get there an hour and a half early and nobody has to worry about anything.
Hmm. Just starts to make sense, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not to the point in my life where like that Grant Cardone, like, if you fly all this time, you need a private jet. That'd be dope. Ain't nobody care about me enough to fly me private.
mm-mm, definitely not. You find a lot of mental health stuff with mechanics, like just as much as anywhere else, you think?
And I won't speak to the other trades because I have never worked in them.
Yeah.
I would bet that mechanics have more mental health things because, and somebody pointed this out the other day, and I didn't really think about it. If you're an excavator operator and your machine breaks, it's inconvenient, and now you're having a bad day. The whole premise of my job are people's bad days. So when I go to work, your machine's broken, that's bad for you. If I go to work and your machine's broken, that's my everyday life.
Hmm.
Like I don't go out and like a smooth day for me is smoothly fixing a broken machine. Like my whole job is based on a fact there's a problem. Like when you're sheetrocking a room or whatever it is, if problems come up, they're problems. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward with what you need to do.
You got it.
When I get a machine, I just say I have mechanics. It's nobody's bringing us something that's good. Nobody's like, hey,
Mm.
you want to look at this crane? It works great. You're
Yeah.
like, cool. Why are we here?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
this shit's broken. So somebody pointed that out. And I think that's why, because like every day there's a problem. You have to problem solve all day long, every day. And it just kind of wears on you. And I think people always make the joke that like field mechanics are grumpier than shop mechanics. And we're like, yeah, because we do your job with less resources and in weather.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I'm not better than shop mechanics. It's just different. But the reason that the field mechanics are always cranky is because the field mechanics work out in the rain or the snow with the same, if not bigger, problems. And instead of the machine coming to the shop where you're hanging out with your coworkers, I'm working on a machine with a foreman behind me going, when's this motherfucker going to be fixed?
I was gonna say that
That's the
where
worst fucking part.
nobody goes hooray when you walk on a site. Maybe they do, but I mean, it's not like, okay, take your time, man, we're super happy that you're here. It's
Yeah.
like, is this not fucking done yet? And you're
Right.
like,
Like,
I
like
just
how
got
long is this
here.
gonna? The best thing is like, hey, is it done yet? Hey, am I still here? Yeah. Then it's not done yet because
Yeah,
I want to spend as least amount of time with you as humanly possible.
that's right. As much as I love you people that I
Yeah.
don't know, but I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Also, if you blow your Newport in my face one more time, I'm burying you with the machine.
Yeah. Yeah, man, people in my space, I have a real hard time with that. If I don't know you,
Well, like,
like,
'cause we get a lot of guys that will, and I can't really knock them, but they want to, if it's a problem that happens a lot, they want to watch how I fix it so they don't have to call me anymore. Cool.
I'm cool with that.
If I can feel your breath on my neck, I'm gonna
Mm, hmm.
watch from a distance. Well, I can't see over there. Fuck, that sucks. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, you're breathing on me, dude.
yeah, yeah,
COVID rules or it's the twice the bill. Figure it out.
yeah. So there's always a joke like, "Hey, I'm $100 an hour to fix this. If you ask questions, I'm 150. If you try to help, it's 200. And if you've worked on it before I get here, it's double."
It's double.
I'm like, hey, so I tried to fix this. I'm like, if it breaks in dealership condition, I have a pretty good way to go about it. But if I open up your where all your controllers are and I see a residential power switch in there that you've
It-
wired for the kill switch, automatically this is gonna suck.
yeah.
And like you see, like, and it's always like the old machinery that's super red. Like there was a machine where they didn't want to buy a hose, but the farmer had black iron pipe from plumbing. And so his like hydraulic return line was black iron pipe that he fucking pipe dove in there. I'm like, hey, how did you get the threads right? He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, a pipe has pipe thread, and that
Yeah.
fitting is machined for a hydraulic fitting. Yeah, it was a little tough. So we went a size smaller and kind of sanded it out. I'm like, that's motherfucker is stripped.
Yeah, cool, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah,
Dope solution, but
yeah.
not for me.
No, not ideal.
Not
Again,
ideal.
that is a technique, but not a preferred one.
We get into that mental health stuff every once in a while. Like that small group of guys that I like chum around with, anybody that's in my like tight community, I'm
Mhm.
always bringing it up, man. It's like,
Yeah.
how's it
I did
going?
a I did a podcast on it with James, the Dirty and Driven podcast. I did a whole
Oh yeah.
podcast. Yeah. Yeah. I did a whole just because it was one of those things like I did it while I was traveling, so I did it from a hotel room, but like it was a really big. So my two career choices, with the exception of maybe like healthcare, I picked probably like the two worst ones for mental health, like the military,
Yeah.
army in general, and then the trades. So both notorious for being mentally exhausting and trying, and there's a lot going on. Um, and I had the same military members that were, killed or passed or, whatever you want to say. Like that's just I hate saying a hazard of the job, but like you all know, right?
It,
Like
it, it is.
nobody wants it to happen, right? But it's kind of like that Joker scene, like, hey, like a soldier gets shot, like nobody bats an eye, but a bus full of kids, everybody losing their mind. Like, hey, well, you knew what you were getting into. Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Doesn't make that any better, but
Hmm.
thank you for your uneducated opinion. It's almost it's right up there with the like, well, I would have joined, but
But
yeah.
I was weak sauce, and they said no.
I was like the
Um,
ones that were like, I don't like people yelling at me. I just fight people. I'm like,
Oh
You
man.
say that to the first time that like a drill sergeant or NCO yells at you, and then you attempt to swing on them, and they beat the dog fuck out of you, and you're like, you know what?
Ah,
Actually, I might be a big fish in my small town, but I just got damn near beat to death by this little Dominican drill sergeant. So I'm gonna
yeah.
life.
I feel
But
like the guys that talk like that have never gotten their ass kicked for real. I think
yeah,
it's been like, someone got a good hit or two and then they like their girlfriend stepped in or some fucking
yeah.
thing and it stopped. Like it I
Well, it's kind of like what there's like a if you've ever been in a fight, you're not really in a rush to get in another one, and that's
yeah,
so true. Like
yeah.
people always in I think our group chat brought it up a little bit, and people are like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if you've ever been in a gunfight, there's zero desire to get another one. Like, that is when I say last resort, like, there are so many, like, oh, you'd run? You're goddamn right, I would.
Yeah, why?
I
Yeah,
would fucking leave trails behind me. Like, I don't give it. Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. But yeah, it's always like I'll fucking swing on anybody. Cool. How's your domestic charge, man? Like,
right.
like that. I won all the fights I got in. Yeah. By the way, that bus full of kids wasn't a big fan of you. Like,
Yeah, dude. It's like I win all the fights that I'm in. My poor girlfriend. And then
yeah,
you're like,
you're right.
we know you
Yeah.
fucking loser.
Yeah.
Go home and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy though. And I mean, we kind of touched on this with we had a call the other day, but it's like you'd like nobody wins in a fight.
No.
You know what I mean? And like if you've put someone in the hospital before, you don't fucking feel good after that. That's not a
No,
win.
and it doesn't even matter. They could be 100% in the wrong and deserving of it.
100%. 100%.
Does not make that feeling any fucking less.
No, you
The
feel like shit.
fuck, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. That goes back to the talkers. Like there are a lot of people out there just talking shit. Like and I think like, even 40 years ago, if you were talking shit, somebody was calling you on it. And if it meant like I'm the best car driver, they were like, "Hey, get in your car.
Right.
Let's go do a drag race
It's
and
like
one of
all
us
the
will
dudes on
die."
the internet. It's like the keyboard warriors, right? Like
Yes.
people
Oh,
say like some of the shit that people say, I'm like, you've never been punched in your mouth. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if this was 20 years ago and there wasn't fucking social media, if you say that to somebody's face, like you get these dudes making comments, and it's typically like somebody's wife or girlfriend or whatever. I'm like, if you made that comment in person in some bar, whoever's dude, maybe she would too, but like the dude there, there's a good chance that you're losing teeth.
yeah.
Like, you can't find me. I'm in the internet. And then the guy's like, oh, you're actually my neighbor. And the kid's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? And then
Curveball.
you're out having a good day and that guy walks in. Oh,
You're like,
good.
oh,
What a
bro,
shit day today's gonna be.
man, today was going okay. And then it took a wicked turn. And now I wish I had better dental coverage.
It took a wicked turn.
Yeah.
Oh man. Mm. I found this wonderful whiskey, Porter's Peach,
Oh,
and it
nice.
and it is fucking delicious.
Yeah.
I
I drink Bullet and Blanton's.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if I'm drinking, I like Jameson too. If we're like stop for our drinks, because like not a lot of like the little places are gonna have Blanton's or
Mm-mm.
but Jameson's like everywhere. Um, but I don't drink as much. Like I still drink, but
Hmm.
so my like I kind of have like rules with it, so to speak. Like if I'm with my kids, I don't drink.
No, same.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If I go out and I'm with people, I will have two at most. Um, and if we go, like, if I'm at somebody's house and like I'm not going anywhere, yeah, I'll let loose a little bit, but I'll never be in the point where I can't defend myself for the people I'm with and I won't be able to drive.
Yeah, which is smart. You know, for me to really tie one off, um,
I gotta be around my people. Like I'm
same.
not just gonna fucking let loose. Like if I'm out somewhere and I'm with one or two people, but they're not like my core group of friends, like we're not getting rowdy. Um, Now if I'm around like my fucking army buddies or like my boys, like okay, but it's not like a fucking everyday occurrence. And I think that's one of the things, this goes back to like that mental health thing.
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever met somebody that's a heavy drinker that's like, I got great mental health.
Yeah,
Like
where they're like, everything's fucking mint and I'm
it's almost like it
celebrating.
fucking mirrors like people that typically have really good mental health spend time on it. They talk about it, number one. And
Hmm.
then usually their vices are pretty small or controlled, so to speak. Like you're not going to find a degenerate gambler that's,
Yeah,
mint.
bang on mint.
Right. So
Yeah, I mean, I really wish that I could show some people what it would be like if they didn't drink for 2 months.
I made a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I had a buddy that was killed and I went to the booth. Um, and it was like,
Went hard.
yeah, well, so I was married at the time and I was probably half a bottle to a bottle a day, and I was good enough at it that she didn't notice. Um, and one day I was just like, this is a fucking problem. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like cold turkey. Like I went to one like an AA meeting just to like kind of see what it was about. Like I was having a problem. And yeah, I went like a year and a half and I realized that like it wasn't difficult.
No.
People are like, well, people are gonna notice that you don't drink. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna have so like I don't want to drink tonight.
Yeah.
Also, if they're your real friends, they might ask why because they're making sure you're
Yeah.
okay.
You good, man? Yeah.
Right? Like I don't have to have alcohol for us to have a good time.
Yeah, man. Cam doesn't drink. And he's one of the people that I have the most fun with.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect that.
Right.
That to me, if I've got a buddy that's out with us and they're not having a drink, I'm not like, come on, bro.
Fuck that.
But I am going like, you good? Like,
Yeah.
are
Like
you not
you
drinking?
always do the check-in, but it's not like, hey man,
Yeah.
you can have just one. Like,
Yeah. Why would you tilt someone like that?
right. And first of all, like maybe they can't, right? And it's not a fault on their part, but like I have buddies that will go out with us and they don't drink, and people are like, well, you can. I'm like, they probably shouldn't. Like, not
Yeah.
I'm not trying to judge them, but like knowing them and knowing what their goals in life are, they shouldn't have,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, I think that drinking and drugs are kind of a mixed topic. Like, I don't partake in them. THC, I wish I could, but I got a lot of drug tests that I have to do for work before I
Oh, yeah.
can
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that anything, that can be used medicinally. Hard drugs, I've never done them, never been into them. Just between I went from a private small Catholic high school into the army, and I had some pretty big aspirations in the military, so I didn't want to fuck that up. And like I think the first time that I consumed any THC was after I think I was like 27.
Yeah.
And I was
Kind
like,
of, kind of when you
this
should be, if you're
right. And
gonna
I was like,
be.
this is kind of cool, right? And it wasn't like because I wanted to be high, but it was because I had a back, like I couldn't sleep. I couldn't fall asleep. So I was like, dude, try THC. I'm like, I don't have to take any drug tests. I'm not in the military anymore. Like, fuck it. And it helped. And then I realized I'm like, I gotta figure out why my back hurts. Like,
That's
I'm not
right.
just gonna keep like band-aid bullet holing this thing. So I got my back squared away. And like once in a blue moon, depending on the stars line up, yeah, sure. Maybe I'll have an edible or take a rip or whatever. Um, but it just never was my thing. I mean, I like the feeling of being high more than I like the feeling of being drunk for sure. But I also
For
don't
sure.
drink to the point of being drunk. So,
Like a couple of times a year, I
well,
will
right, but that's what I'm
actually
saying.
get
Like
drunk.
it's not like
No.
there's dudes. I have coworkers that are like they come in the next day and they smell like they were still at the bar.
Hmm.
Hey, you want to know why you're cranky and tired and don't feel good? Ta-da!
Yeah. Because you look and feel like shit.
Right,
And why do you think that is?
right. I wonder why. Wow.
And and
Yeah.
and, and I mean, that's what I was talking about is if you could just like click a pen and then
Mhm.
have somebody just feel for like an hour what it's like not to be constantly,
Right.
constantly, constantly drinking or eating like shit or doing
Yeah, I was
drugs
just gonna say
or
like the
not
food thing
sleeping
and
properly. Like,
right. And like don't get me wrong, like I'm not the poster child for any of that. I
oh my
work a lot,
God, me
sleep very
neither.
little, and my diet is mixed. But like for the most part, like if I'm like right now in my house, I have like those microwave rice packets
Oh
because they're
yeah.
easy to and then I prep 20 pounds of chicken.
Yeah.
But I like that. Like, not everybody can eat chicken and rice. Like, it sounds boring, but like, I enjoy it. So I'm the anomaly though. But like, you eat really well for a couple weeks or a couple months or a really long time. You go out and have fast food, you're like, fuck, this makes me feel like shit.
Feel like
And then
shit right away.
you take the people that are like, they eat fast food and shit all the time, and then they eat clean. They're like, so I don't have an upset stomach and like I'm
Yeah.
not tired. You're like,
Right.
maybe, just maybe it's the no alcohol, good food and sleep. But you do you. It could be the fucking Mercury was in retro butthole or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck the
Yeah.
term is. Yeah.
Palico was in Gatorade. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The fucking chakras aligned.
Yeah. Honestly, though, the last couple of weeks, I I regurgitate this all the time. I'm sure everybody's sick of hearing it. But like, do you have a morning routine where you like fucking think about what you're grateful of and shit? And like, I'm gonna have a good day. Today's gonna be a good
So
day.
I like the affirmations thing. I did that for a little bit. I am definitely a routine person. So
Yeah.
which is ironic. So my job has no routine to it, right?
No, it's a
So
bag of cats.
anything outside of that, I have a routine. Like my kids and I, it's not like we enforce it, but we just naturally gravitate to it. But like for me, I get up at 3:45 every morning, shower, get dressed, whatever, and I'm out the door at 4:15. Clockwork. Every day. I do the same thing. I stop at the same place. I get my caffeine. I do this. I get anything that I can do to prep myself for the day to be successful. And like in the summertime, it changes a little bit because like I'll stop at the same gas station, get ice, get whatever beverages I want for the day, put them in my cooler. But I try to mitigate as much. Like everybody's done it. Like you show up to work where you haven't, like you're in a rush and you're like, fuck, I forgot this and this and
Yep.
this. And if you have a routine, I would put money that you don't forget as many things.
No, not at all.
Like I keep everything in the same pockets. Like,
Yeah, dude.
and it sounds like people are like, oh, well, that's like a little bit, on the spectrum. Like, okay, like I don't lose my shit. Like every pair of pants I have a ring in the back pocket. I carry my wallet, like everything gets stored the same because it mitigates the amount of bullshit. I already have enough bullshit at work. Like,
Hmm.
why would I want to add more chaos to my day-to-day life?
Yeah, man. And I'm like my pouch or whatever. If I'm looking for my square, it's here.
Mhm.
It's the
Right.
same. And in my whole career, it's been there because I
Yep.
know that's where it is.
Right.
And
And most mechanics are their tool. Once you get your toolbox set up, it doesn't change.
yeah,
Like my service truck, I'm going to move into this new service truck and it's not the same. So the drawers aren't going to line up the same and I have more space. I'll move into it in probably like a week and a half. And it will take me a year of getting shit sorted before I pull 9,000 drawers that aren't the right one.
that's right.
Somebody's like, why don't you just label them? That doesn't always help. I don't always read.
Yeah, because I'm not going to stop and read. Opening three drawers in the time that I'm going to read the drawer.
Right. Right.
Yeah, routine, man. Yeah, I kind of got into that too when I was having my moment of peace there, where I was like, I just need to build a new routine because it's
Yeah.
like so much in a year has happened where like the podcast, I don't want to say took off, but I mean it didn't fail.
Right.
This community
Which I
stuff,
think in a way, like there's somebody listed how many podcasts have started versus how many are actually going.
it's crazy.
And after talking to a couple, like I've been on a decent amount of podcasts and just whatever. But the amount of work that goes into a lot of them, depending on what it is, right? And like
Hmm.
nobody's Joe Rogan. Nobody
No,
has a team of people. They don't have, hey Jamie, can you look this stat up? You're like,
yeah,
hang on.
one day.
Like
Yeah,
it's a one-man show. And every podcast that I've been on, podcasting is a second, third, fourth thing. Like they have a regular job.
that's right.
So if you can lock it in and you can have content and guests and still make your like that's a win. Well, it didn't really take off. I'm like, is it going? Yeah. Then that's a win, right? Like
Yeah,
you
dude.
did give up on it when it got slow or difficult or whatever.
Couple of times I've like said things out in public with people and and I mean a couple like two and they've been like, "Oh yeah, you talked about that on the podcast." And I'm like, "Whose podcast?" Like
Yeah.
There's no way you're listening to this.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. I just mean, when things drastically change like that, travel is another thing that has exploded this last year. And yeah, I don't know, man. Like I just haven't been able to build a routine. Everything's always been constantly changing. And yeah, I don't know, man. So I did have that moment where I was like, I need to just get a new routine. So I'm gonna start getting up and going to the gym every day, like just in the morning. Just show up. If I don't have time,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just touch my foot down in the gym and then fucking go do what I had to do.
Yeah.
But I made it.
Yep. So
And then
getting there is always half the battle for me. And somebody's like, well, why don't you go to the gym before work? I'm like, well, then I'm getting up at 1, which means I'm going to bed at 4. Like that doesn't work for me. But um, I don't know. I'm also like, people are like, oh, well, everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. I'm like, yeah, and yes and no, right? Like you and I both have 24 hours in every single day. But what your obligations are and what my obligations are different. Now we chose those, I mean, for the most part, but we put value on them. So like I am not going to give up time with my children to go to the gym. I'm also
no.
not going to give up time and a half or double time on my work time
Mm-mm.
gym. Like I like buying shit, right?
Yeah.
And there's days that I make it a priority to do this, this, and this, and follow a plan or whatever it is. But it's amazing what clarity you can get from like the big four, right? Like sobriety, sleep, food, and physical exercise or movement. I don't care if it's a fucking walk, right?
Yeah. Activity.
And tradesmen are notorious for like, I work on my feet all day. I'm like,
Okay.
that's better than not, right? But that's not the same as going to the gym or going for like a dedicated walk or run or hike or fucking
Yeah.
whatever the fuck you're even
You're
whatever you're
talking about like endorphins, like that real good feeling after you've done something
right.
for your body.
Right. I've done things at work that are way more physically exhausting than the gym, but it doesn't release the same, like, it's not the same. Apples and
No.
oranges. Although I
Part
will
of
say that when I got stronger in the gym and in better shape, work was way easier from that side of it. And like for me, like obviously heavy equipment, as the name suggests, everything's fucking heavy.
hmm
Uh, so, you're in weird places or whatever, but like the better shape you're in, the better you can do that because like you, I've yet to find somebody that being in better shape makes their life tougher.
Yeah. I, I said that the other day where, the gym breakups make bodybuilders, right? Like, you got a big breakup, the gym will help you fix that. If you want to quit drinking, the gym will help you fix that. You've got a bad habit, the gym will help you fix that. And sometimes they just make that the new habit. Like it's
Mhm.
just a replace, but nobody's ever going to be like, hey man, I think you're putting a little too much time into bettering yourself, okay?
Yeah.
I think you really need to watch your
Yeah.
your gym intake.
Well, that was like my big thing when I got divorced, free time went to the gym.
Yes.
Good
Well, and
outlet.
I
It
was
could
going to
it
say,
like it my mental health, for as rough as it was at one point, fixed, I wouldn't shouldn't say fixed. It helped that. Um, Good shape, eating better, sleeping better. You fill that void, so then you're not, you know, drinking, like just getting
yeah.
annihilated or causing trouble or getting into things you don't have fucking business getting into.
Well, okay. What do you do when you're down? Like, let's say you just had like a shitbag disaster day, or like something is like you are feeling depressed.
You
Do
there?
you have, what do you do?
Hello.
Oh no, he froze. Can you hear me?
You're frozen.
Oh no. I'm gonna start singing the Frozen song for our listeners. Hold on, everybody. I'm texting him.